Welcome to the Visual Cast. I'm coming at you from California. I'm your host, Alon Hammer, aka Ram. The Visual Cast is a hybrid podcast where we sit down with some of the best, most interesting, and most exciting visual artists from all over the world. We are opening portals and blasting off into other dimensions for episode 17 with the Hive Master himself, Bjorn Jelinek. Besides for being the driving force behind the best stage to projection map on ever, the mighty Hive portal at the Modem Festival in Croatia, Bjorn is a top dog of all things fabrication. He is a master carpenter, a certified CNC and laser cutter, and an official teacher of Rhino and Grasshopper, the go-to CAD design software for parametric and procedural design. Talking with Bjorn is like being connected directly to a multidimensional futuristic prism, like that scene from The Matrix, I know Kung Fu. It was a real honor for me to have him on the podcast, and I'm so grateful that he gave us the time out of his busy schedule. So make sure to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. We go deep into Bjorn's roots growing up in the Alps, witnessing the peak of psytrance parties in Berlin and London, starting out as a string artist and tie-dyer, joining the ExtraDimensionalSpaceAgency and throwing some of the coolest underground raves known to man, downloading, designing, and building some of the most jaw-dropping stages in the world. What it means to design from an authentic, expressive, outer realm, channeling messages from other worlds and other beings, Modem Festival and opening portals, the power of crystals, the insanity of silicone, and raising kids. For Bjorn's set, he graciously shows us his insane Grasshopper and Rhino setup and workflow, and we take a look at the Hive and how it's designed parametrically and procedurally, and how Bjorn gets the files and designs ready for laser and CNC. This was one of the more turned on, tuned in, and dropped out episodes, and it was such a pleasure getting to know Bjorn deeper and seeing his unbelievable workflows. I'm really having a blast doing this podcast, and I'm working on some pretty awesome supplemental content coming soon. But what I really want, and I'm trying to achieve, is audience interaction. I want to hear from you. I want to read your comments, suggestions, ideas. What should I do next? Who should I have on next? My goal is to do these as live streams, but I need a bigger audience to legitimize that. So please subscribe here on YouTube, comment, like, do the little notification thing, go to our Spotify and leave a review, and share with anyone you think might enjoy these conversations and showcases. It's just a few clicks for you, but it helps us out so much you can't even imagine. Okay, without any further ado, here's the Visual Cast.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
Welcome to the Visual Cast. I'm joined today by a very special guest, a person dear to my heart, a massive inspiration on me and many others. The grandfather or the granddaddy of the Modem Hive. We're joined today by Bjorn Jelinek, the Hive Master. Welcome to the podcast, Bjorn.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's really an extreme honor to have you on the podcast, and I'm so grateful. I know you're, more of a behind-the-scenes type of person, so it's really an honor, and I feel really grateful that you're here. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Bjorn, the mind behind the Hive, the mind behind many stages designs across the world. You're a master CNC engineer, a master Rhino and parametric design artist, and a master carpenter. From South Africa to Mexico to Croatia, Spain, and more, your stages, or portals, are synonymous with psychedelic imagery and culture. The immense power you manage to release with wood, glass, reflective surfaces, metal, crystals is absolutely second to none, and you have inspired a generation of visual artists, whether they know or they are aware of it or not. I personally decided to start my true journey as a visual artist at Modem, at the Hive, because of the Hive. Your humility and behind-the-scenes demeanor elevates your intention and inspiration to higher levels, and I'm so grateful that you are here with us. And to start things off, I just want to know from you, what is it like knowing that your portals actually work and activate?
First of all, thanks for the introduction and reflection on what it is that I'm doing. Yes, the Stargates, they really work, indeed. And for me, how to say, I feel definitely more like a channel for these things, a channel from higher realms or future realms. And I'm just super, super grateful to be able to share this with thousands of people and inspire them. And I feel like that's my main mission with all of that. I want to inspire people and share what comes from me.
Hell yeah. And you do that extremely well, so congratulations. Let's jump back a little bit. You grew up in Austria, is that right?
Yes, I was born in Vienna, and I lived there till my youth. And as I was 16, I moved to the Alps of Austria,
Wow.
which changed also a big course of mine. In the Alps, I started to become friends with, let's say, the psychedelic trance scene. I met a couple of people who were sort of hippies, and they dragged me to Switzerland. They said, hey, there's these Goa parties. And this definitely changed my course as an artist, and I'm super grateful.
Wow, so at 16 you left home and went to live in the Alps. Is that like a common thing for Austrian youth to leave?
Not really. Age? I had a sister living there.
Okay.
And I was visiting her a lot there in the Alps, and it's a very beautiful valley.
Beautiful.
And I found that I have better opportunities there than in the city. I didn't enjoy the city life so much, so I just decided to move there and try it out. And it was a good decision.
Yeah, clearly. And interesting. So I definitely want to jump into psychedelic trance and all that kind of trajectory. But before that, did you go to school for any of the stuff that you do, higher education or anything like this? And kind of what was like your catalyst? What? At what?
No. Good point. To be honest, I never really finished school.
Nice.
I was not the type of guy going to school a lot, because I think I was challenged in a really wrong way there, and I discovered this for myself, that this is not the place for me. I was in the standardized school system, and I really don't think that was for me. I felt I have higher tasks waiting for me, than finishing school. By now I finished a fair amount of educations and courses and whatever, but that time with 16, school was really far away from my realm.
Yeah.
And so I did not really finish per se an artist school or whatever, but I was always extremely artistic. It was, I guess, given to me through birth, through, let's call it the zodiac I was born in, and I guess, we get given talents in our life, and I got blessed with being very artistic, I would say.
Hell yeah. Are your parents artistic? Do they come from this type of background?
Not really at all, to be honest.
Really.
My dad is slightly, he's trying now in his pension, he's becoming more of a small carpenter. But
Nice.
none of my parents are really in any way sort of artistic, I would say. It was really a given talent.
And was there any people from your youth that were like an inspiration kind of to pursue arts? I mean, was your first introduction to art like wooden CNC and parametric design, or was it at a different area?
Not at all.
Not at all.
I think I started, to be honest, very basic with batik design. I was always
what?
somebody.
What design? Paddock?
Batik, when
What is
you tie-dye.
Oh
Tie-dye.
shit! Really? That's
Yes,
so
yes.
crazy. I don't. That's wild. That's awesome,
Yeah.
dude. That's so. That
I,
makes a lot of sense, actually. That's so
I was
funny.
always very crafty, you know. I was very, very crafty with my hands all the time. So I think I tried all sorts of things in my life. At some point I was painting backdrops. I think I'm a very good painter, you know, if I want to. And by now I rarely take a pencil and paper. Now I'm super digital when it comes to drawing. But I used to paint backdrops, and I used to do a lot of tie-dye at the beginning, and which was really my main thing for many years was string art.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of string art, geometric shapes. I'm very geometric when it comes to design. You know, I like mathematical concepts in the design. You know, repetitive design. Yeah.
So string art, interesting. And was there someone kind of at this realm that kind of because if you didn't grow up with, you know, an artistic background, or you didn't go to school for it, you know, what was the catalyst to kind of, besides for, I mean, I can imagine that at 16 you didn't necessarily acknowledge that you were born with talents, maybe, but, you know, probably not. Was there a catalyst or someone that sparked this inside of you that made you want to, you know, pursue it?
To be honest, thinking about it, I could not point out what that would have been, or there was not really some person or guy or somebody really. But I would say I went to a lot of trance parties, and
That will do it.
there was a lot of psychedelics involved occasionally, and I think I just combined these experiences with my craftiness, you know, and need for expression. I call it a need for expression. You know, as an artist, you have this drive, you know, to really express those ideas you generate in yourself or you conceive. You know, you get eventually this urge of needing to bring this down to earth.
Totally.
And push it into reality, you know, with
Expression.
Yes, just express it, you know.
Yeah.
So I had really this drive to just carry on with this, you know.
That's awesome. It's wild because, like, you know, psytrance is such a, or not psytrance the music per se, but like the whole theme of a psytrance party, like it's a ceremony, it's, you know, a kind of heightened, altered state. There's such a crazy feeling in a psytrance party, and parties in general, but I think in psytrance now for sure, of like self-expression. And it's not about like you're an artist or I'm an artist. It's just like you go to the dance floor, you dance like a crazy person. Nobody's judging you. Nobody's like, you know, looking at you. You're just expressing. And you don't even know what that means, right? You don't even know what that is, but you just go, you take some substances and you're just like releasing all these things from your body. And then you're like, oh, I'm actually expressing myself and this is who I am, you know? And it's like, I think so many people have had this kind of experience at a psytrance dance floor, and for many of us it kind of sparks a career or sparks, you know, this like you said, like this need to express yourself outside of the party, you know, and it's really beautiful that you kind of have this very clean trajectory in that sense. So let's dive into psytrance. You know, what what is kind of your maybe your first experience with psytrance, or kind of like, what did you think the first time you were at a party? Was there some moment that sparked for you, or something that kind of left for you? As a 16-year-old, I mean, it's pretty young to go to these parties. Was it like a natural kind of thing? Did you feel at home? What was the feeling?
So yeah, thinking back, which is already almost 25 years ago, that I went to not only psytrance parties. I was 16, 17, 18. You go out with your friends, and we lived close to the city of Innsbruck. We went to drum and bass parties, techno parties, but also Goa parties. And obviously the vibe is very different. And I think 25 years ago it was definitely different than it is today. Yeah. And those times, you said it before really, really nicely, because I also experienced this, being on the dance floor and being free to express, dancing the way I wanted to, and with all honesty, at those times you only could feel this type of freedom at psytrance parties. Yeah. To really be left who you are, being the least amount of judged possible, for how you express yourself, and obviously that makes you as a being very comfortable, Yeah. So this is why I felt comfortable, of being myself, of being allowed to be myself. So yeah, I carried on to being part of this. And indeed, when I was eventually 21 years, I went to London, and this obviously completely changed and expanded my course of my artist career. And being part of this movement, the psychedelic trance movement.
In London?
In London, yes. I moved there with 21, and I became part of this organization called Acid Monkey, which at that time and for many years after, we were throwing really the absolute biggest trance parties there, and nice. They were all based on squad parties, illegal raves. Yeah. So this was very exciting for many years, to be honest, and this is where I grew my talent, and I started to become so many intense reflections to that what I do, that I just carried on doing what I do, yeah.
So when you were in London, was that when you started getting into stage design? What was the... I like to use the word catalyst a lot because it's a big word. But what was the catalyst to getting into stage design? From, I guess were you doing like string art at parties and doing deco at parties? Was that kind of just like a natural progression almost?
I think I would say it was like this. It was a natural progression, and it was eventually there was organizers which trusted enough into me and what I do to say, okay, I give you the space, I allow you to design the stage for this event,
Hell yeah.
And eventually it became what it is today. Yeah.
What was the first stage?
First stage, I don't know. The thing is that I got really, really into when the whole ideas of crystal grids and stargates came, Yeah. There was many years I was part of a collective called the ExtraDimensionalSpaceAgency. For those who know us, they know what it is.
Baby.
Yes. For those who know us or know these times, they know what we did in Europe, with this collective. And the head of the EDSA was Richard, and I met Richard through the Acid Monkey parties. And we came up with the first Stargate on one of those Acid Monkey parties, and that was, I would lie about the year, but maybe 2009, 2010. Wow. That's when really the first Stargate was born. as physical stage setup. And for me, to be honest, I don't design stages. I design stargates. This is what I like. This is what I love. You know, this is what I do, basically.
Yeah. Hell yeah. And interesting. Richard Mackenzie, like a huge inspiration to me as well. Love him so much. When you were in this collective, the EDSA, before you kind of got into making a Stargate, what was the collective doing? Was it more of like a lifestyle kind of thing, or were you guys kind of making art together? Like, what was the machination of it? Like, what were you guys doing as a collective, as the EDSA?
To be honest, the EDSA started to be mostly Richard. It was his project, and it started to become bigger because of Acid Monkey. That's the truth. Acid Monkey, which was the head of Acid Monkey, was a guy called Mahler, and he supported what the EDSA was doing, what Richard was doing, and I supported the idea behind it a lot. The ExtraDimensionalSpaceAgency, it says it in the name. It's something very cosmic, something from outer space, something from not from Earth. And I feel, this art which I'm conceiving, certainly has other realms as inspiration than planet Earth. And let's call it space travel or space exploration. What is out there, it's a big question for all of us,
Yeah.
And I believe that's my biggest inspiration, to be honest. The realization and the full knowingness, coming into knowingness that we are not alone.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So after that, after this conversation right now with you, actually, I start to remember that this is the ignition of it all,
The wanting to know what's out there?
Not the wanting to know what's out there, more like the honoring of knowing what's out there.
Interesting.
And the reflection of that, in a sense that, let's put it that way, I see it like that. We have friends up there, and we need to let these friends sort of know that there's other guys down here which would appreciate open connection and appreciate exchange of maybe a physical based level even, and for them to potentially feel comfortable. I feel I represent this in my art, to know, hey guys, there's we are also down here. And we would like to welcome you and say hello at some point. And as an honoring to this, here's a Stargate where maybe you can come through to us or we can travel to you,
Yeah.
So I think that's the deepest point of it. Yeah.
It's beautiful. I love that honoring idea. Like, it's almost, spiritual for sure. And maybe spiritual is like a used word like God, but the idea of spirituality, honoring, right? The honoring of the spirits, of the other realms, of the space, of the, extra dimensional. Honoring, I love that word. It's such an authentic word, but it also is kind of like, it makes sense when you think about like what a portal or what a stage is, right? It's like you're allowing people that are coming to self-express and release whatever they're releasing or feel whatever they're releasing. You're giving them an anchor, right? They're giving them an anchor to something to connect to look at, to feel, especially when the intention of the anchor is that. And therefore, you're kind of like almost giving the extra dimension that honor by giving that thing that connects them being an anchor. Like I'm just thinking of like a temple or like a what's the word in English? Like
a sacred space.
A sacred space for sure. Like in the Jewish temple, there's the altar, not Jewish specific, but an altar in general. Kind of like an altar is a anchor to the spirit realm, right? It's a place that you can look at and feel and touch and see, that when you're not in the ceremony and the altar, you can think about the altar and you're back where you were. And that's kind of like a really strong thing, you know, and especially when you're doing it to extra dimensions, it becomes like a crazy torus vortex, you know, continuation, infinite kind of cycle. It's really cool to hear you talk about it like that.
Yeah, it's sort of an physical representation of that connection, you know, through, yeah.
I want to linger a little bit more on this, and then we can go, you know, a little bit into digital realm, because I think that there's a lot of connections there. But when you are downloading an idea for a portal, for a, you know, for a Stargate, is there like a clear vision of it, or is it more almost like you know, like is it a clear vision, or is it something that's more like esoteric, of like the feeling of like recreating the feeling that you felt with the download? You know what I mean? Like, is it like a very, because your stages are so intricate and there's so much detail, you know, whether it's the language, whether it's the like the parametric design and the iteration design, you know, the sacred geometry involved in it. You know, what is kind of, I know this is like a very difficult question, but what is the kind of trajectory from, okay, idea, inspiration, download to implementation of that thing?
I can answer this fairly easy with
Nice.
Yeah, because there's a certain path I take from the very beginning, which is geometry and a sort of alignment of certain geometries, which on my Instagram page, for example, I call myself Hexagon Addict, because basically it's my absolute most favorite shape in the universe.
Me too. I love it.
And it's based on a certain type of geometry, 3, 6, and 9. And as in compared to 2, 4, and 8, it's a completely different feeling. Mm-hmm. So you will never ever see a Stargate of mine which has the geometry 2, 4, 8. So already this is a big starting point of mine. At the same time, I'm really wanting to bring in things like sacred geometry, which is obviously the flower of life, vesicle Pisces, and the platonic solids. Yeah, they all represent lots of sacred geometry, and this is a big thing always when I start projects, that straight away I guide myself on these things. Yeah, as well as fractals, Mandelbrot, the Mandelbrot calculations. You know, I mean, obviously I love fractals and repetitive iterations.
So you start from kind of this, you know, 3, 6, 9. Have you ever read the book by Nigel Pennick, the Sacred Geometry book?
No.
Okay, I'll bring it to Modem for you. It's great. It's like, you know, sacred geometry is kind of like one of those words, again, like spirituality or God, that's like so in the sphere as like whatever, but it actually means a very like simple thing of, like you're saying, like just mathematical functions that, you know, repeat themselves throughout human culture, you know, whether it's architecture, whether it's, you know, more like sacred things like temples or, you know, altars or things like that. And even in nature, right, of course, is probably where it comes from. And that's like kind of our integral connection to nature, is kind of like that our brains think the same way that nature designs itself. So it's a cool book. It like goes through lots of different religions, or I should say cultures, and kind of breaks down like their specific things and architectures and shows the connection. It's a really nice one. I'll bring it for you. But I just bring it up because, like what you're saying, you start with this kind of idea of the sacred geometry. You start with the idea of the hexagon and kind of like, the mathematical function. How does that translate to a design? Like, how does that translate to a stage? Like, what's the switch?
So, so in my
Tell me how your
stages,
brain
which
works,
are-
Bjorn.
First of all, as you introduced myself, I'm a carpenter. I was always working with wood. I'm literally a professional carpenter. I have a degree as a carpentry. I have a carpentry degree, and I work with wood and CNC machines. When I started to design stages, the first Stargate was built by myself and cut with a jigsaw by hand.
Oh, wow.
So immediately, I realized they started to call me the human CNC machine at the beginning because I was cutting everything by hand,
I love that.
And even the second Stargate, I remember the second Stargate also, which was the first true real Stargate, which we presented the first time at the Zora Festival, 2010. I believe it was, or 2011, I'm not sure anymore.
For the main
But
stage?
this was at the main stage, yes. This was the first true Stargate. I really feel like, okay, this was the first version which came through into more clear and detailed way. And I cut this by hand. And straight away, I knew, I could see 10 years ahead at that point, to where this is going to go.
Right.
And I honestly needed to find the support in the project to find somebody who also believed in the vision of that and who understood that a stage which I have in mind, I'm not able to build in a couple of months or 1 year. The stage I wanted to build, I knew I have to build over several years, like many years, to come to the level which I would like it to be. And the first real place where this manifested was Modem Festival.
Yeah.
That's where it all aligned, after many years doing so many festivals and building several stages. There was a time in the festival scene. It was extremely important for the festival organization to have every year a new stage. And this was a bit frustrating to me as an artist, because you only can ever give so much, so 1 year, and then you set it up for 1 week, or and you take it down straight after, and nobody cares about it anymore.
Yeah.
So,
or they want something new the next year, right?
Yes, and for me, this I really wanted to get away from this. I really specifically targeted my reality in a way that I do not have to do this again. And luckily, the organization of Modem Festival, Tommy, he started to be the first one who understood what I'm trying to do, and who eventually supported the idea and said, okay, we build a stage and we can continue building it, and we're not going to take it down every year. It's going to stay there, and you can continue working on it.
It's so, Tommy is such a visionary in that sense, like, that he had this ability to kind of like, I don't know if it's maybe like accepting or listening to others, but like, just there's so many things at Modem that are so new and so like forward thinking, whether it's having the DJs in the sides, and whether it's like you said, like the Stargate kind of agenda of like, okay, we have a design that's going to build and build and build throughout the years. Like, it's not only on like a budgetary thing, it's also in like a conceptual thing, you know, like if you think about it like in a budgetary way, like I'm Jewish, obviously I'm going to think about money, but like on a budgetary way, it's like, you know, okay, we can spend $100,000 over 3 years or $20,000 in 1 year. Like, obviously, if you spend more money over the course of time, you're going to get something way bigger and more impressive. And maybe you'd never be able to get that if you didn't kind of like think that way, right? And it's in a way, it's the same thing as spending 20 grand each year. It's like the same thing, but you're getting a much bigger thing at the end. But it takes foresight to think about these things. And Modem, you know, for me, it's very special in my heart because it really was the first place that I went to and kind of saw, you know, Fede and Faye and how they were doing their things and TAS, obviously. It was really Fede and Faye that like I really like was just like standing behind them. And it was like before there was a VJ booth, it was like on the side of the mountain, on the side of the hill. You know, you had to like walk up through the mud to get to it. And I just stood there for like the whole festival, basically, just like watching them and just being completely like blown away. Because I had played with visuals and played with VJing, but like I never saw it at this level, you know, at this level and with this much thought, you know, with this much like energy put into it. And it's way before I even knew about Rich and the Stargates and you and you know, and it was like not even like just subconsciously just seeing it being done was like mind-blowing without even knowing all the work that was put behind it. And I think it's really a testament to Modem in general as like kind of a hub. You know, I think as artists we always have to remember that our ideas are one thing, but people allow us to enable the ideas, right? Like somebody's either paying for it or giving us the land or the stuff or the tools. Like there's always somebody that's like, oh, you have a good idea, I'm going to enable this idea. So I always, you know, think about that in my art. Whenever I play, it's like somebody gave me a projector, like somebody built a stage. Like there's something more than just me here. And I think Modem is like such a really powerful conduit for that. So when you found Modem, was it kind of like what was that like? Like who found who? You know, what was the connection with Modem for you?
And that's one of the funniest stories, to be honest. I love to tell it. Because it was me and Robbie. Robbie, a big shout out to him. He's on Instagram, the Clown of Creation. And he
shout out.
Is an absolute incredible human being and incredible artist. He's the one who built all the structured buildings for Modem Festival over the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. He built the big stage, which is carrying the Stargate. He built the big center core, which we used to present the DNA structure. And he also built downstairs the big center sculpture in the Swan to hold the tent. So he is an absolute crazy dude. And without him, this would not be possible. And me and him, we used to travel Europe a lot, building stages, decoration, dance floors, wherever. And Modem was our Let's Go On a Party festival.
Right.
So it was, I believe, 2012, where we decided Modem Festival was after the season, and we said, hey, this is the last festival, let's go to it, let's have fun. And
back when it was Memento Demento, no?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the very first edition on that location. It is held now. Mm-hmm. That was 2012. Mm-hmm. And the first Modem was 2011, but that was held close to Zagreb. Mm-hmm. And then the first edition was 2012 on that location. And we just went there with our van, with a bunch of LED lights in the back, with some decorations. And we turned up at the entrance like 2 nights before the festival starts. And we asked if we can participate and join. We want to help. and it was Tommy driving up his quad to our van. We were next to the road, and he drove up next to us. He looked inside the window. He looked to me and Robbie, and he said, "Hey guys, you think you can make a difference?" and I just looked to Robbie, looked to Tommy. I said, "Yes, I think we can make a difference." and
Wow.
and he said, "Follow me, guys." So we followed him with the van towards the Hive. It wasn't the Hive that time; it was just the main stage, and he brought us there. And it was 2 nights before the event starts. And there was a huge pile of electricity cables, UV cannons, UV strips, power cans, everything just lying on the floor there. And he said, "Man, guys, my guy totally fucked up. My electrician is too busy. Can you help me?" And all I said, "Man, don't worry. We sort you out, man."
Oh my God.
And so I was there. We were with a small crew. And we gathered them on the festival, and I said, "Guys, we're gonna have to do this now." And Robbie basically took it in his hand and sorted out the entire dance floor, while I took my LED lights and set it up on the stage. And eventually, I think it was Delta Process with somebody else doing the stage design at the time, and I implemented the LED lights into the stage, and
Back
from
then?
then on, it was. Back then, yes,
Wow.
2000, the first model, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's still pictures on the Modem website. You can see it was sort of a hexagon design, which obviously was fantastic to work with. And it totally made a difference, to be honest. It really, there was visual project at that time, but the projectors were very low
Shit, probably.
quality, so the LEDs really made a huge difference, and everybody could see and feel that. And Tommy came after the festival. We had no expectations on this, but he came after the festival and just gave me some money into my hand and said,
Wow.
"Guys, I really want to pay you because this was amazing what you did, and can we please start working together?"
That's amazing.
And and from then it went onwards.
I mean, there you go. That's like another Tommy anecdote. Like the fact that he gave you money after is just like that's not common at all.
Man,
maybe
it's not common, and
maybe he'll say,
yes.
"Okay, I'll book you next year," or next year we'll pay you. But like, that's not common that somebody who didn't agree to pay you beforehand would pay you. That's like, that shows the type of person he is, and like the love that he has for the festival, like what he believes in the festival. I love that. That's such a great story. That's amazing. So you were into LEDs already by this point. What was, what was the catalyst for LEDs? Like where did that come from? What was the inspiration? Where did you see it being used? How did you think to integrate it into a stage?
That was Richard. Richard and
was Rich?
The experience. Yeah, that was Richard for sure. The experiences we had with the ADSA. He started a product like many years ago with a couple of other peoples. It was producing their own LED lights. It was called the Hex Mod.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we actually produced these Hex Mods quite a lot. But they became very expensive eventually to produce, and got kind of replaced with other products which came along from the industry, which did more the thing we actually needed. So, we decided to, this project had to be let go of. We couldn't produce these lights because it was just too expensive and ineffective for what we wanted to do. So we switched to LED strips.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know that LEDs every LED in the world is manufactured by 2 companies in China. Like there's only 2 companies in China that manufacture all the LEDs on planet Earth, which is just wild to think about. Like from your TV to your phone to the stage to projectors even. I mean, like everything, comes from two places in China. Like
Sure.
it's so wild. Yeah, I'm in a lot in virtual production, so like LED panels for the screens is very important. And when you're at this high end kind of screens where you need like very very tight pixel pitch, there's like 5 or 6 companies that make very high end LEDs, and then when you kind of look into it, they all have the same manufacturer, and they're just branded differently, or they have like different deals with like the manufacturer of like they're gonna buy like a whole what is it called, like a whole like a series that's made at once, so that their panels are all the same. But it's like they're all buying the same panels and just rebranding them. So it was a very funny thing to realize that like, oh, these are all the same, just with a different company name on it. It's just like so funny to think about. That's wild. So Rich kind of came up with the concept or idea to kind of integrate LEDs into structure, and that was kind of something that spurred for you was it just like, did you just fall in love with it at first? Was it just like, oh, this makes so much sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the fact of putting different mediums together, light and crafted decoration. Absolutely. The decoration we did really, really evolved in a certain way. There was a time on Psytrance parties where there was a clear line when it comes to decoration. There was string art, there was lycra, and there was backdrops. Yeah,
right.
That was it. You had backdrops on the side, you had a lycra roof, and you had some string art hanging around or in between. Yeah, and it was for many, many years. A decade for sure. The line on Psytrance parties, and honestly, I felt like I wanted to evolve that. I wanted to evolve that in something new, something different, something fresh, get away from the standardized concept we had, and present something new. And this is how I ended up coming up with my type of decoration, Also, whoever knows my stuff can see that the last 10 years I'm barely using any colors when it comes to coloring my things. I don't use UV colors. I barely use any colors. I love the natural look of wood, and the feeling it gives during the day to be natural, and it turns colorful at night anyway.
Right. Projection mapping, was that something you were introduced to early on, or was it something that you saw kind of later on through Modem and places like this? Did you have it you had it at Azora at that first stage that you did?
To be honest, I never was into visuals, and I also never really tried to get into it.
Come on, bro.
Yeah.
Joking,
No, what I mean is I never started to get myself into it. I never started to produce visuals. I never had the intention of, I'm gonna be a visual artist. I never even had the feeling of that, because visual artists, they stay very much in the digital realm.
Yeah.
Everything they produce is virtually impossible to put into reality as a 3-dimensional object.
That's true.
So my mind really, really thinks into a very physical-based 3-dimensional
physical
reality realm, in a physical realm. Yeah. Whatever I design, whatever I do, my mind straight away jumps into direction of how I'm going to produce this thing.
Fabrication almost.
I'm a fabrication addict, man, when it comes to that. I love to fabricate stuff, and I love to fabricate my ideas. So for me, it would be impossible to be a visual artist, because I limit myself in a sense straight away. Yeah, because straight away my mind evolves into that direction of fabrication.
Fascinating.
So whatever I start to draw, and yeah.
So is that okay? So that's a great lead into kind of where I wanted to talk to you about the digital realm. You're a Rhino master. you also teach Rhino at a very high level, and I guess like the marrying of, CNC is essentially, it's physical, but you need a digital medium to use it, especially definitely with laser. What was kind of your introduction to Rhino, and was it difficult for you to make that jump to digital, coming from string art, which is so tactile, coming from Lycra, which is tactile and kind of, spatial, right? You're like, tie it, where do you tie it, where do you connect it? Was Rhino a hard thing for you to swallow, and kind of who taught it to you? Where did you first pick it up? And
yeah, it's a good point.
Before you go into it,
yeah.
for people that don't know, Rhino is a digital kind of DCC. It's a 3D software, but it's focused on fabrication. So anything you make at Rhino essentially is made in a way that can be later made into something physical.
In general, Rhino is a CAD program, CAD, which is computer-aided design. So it's generally based on that. And to be honest, it was very hard for myself. And I only got into it because of necessity. As I shared before, that I was using a lot Jigsaw, and that I knew, okay, when all these detailed designs I really want to express, I need a machine to cut this, and for being able to feed the machine with the correct information, I needed to generate these drawings. So it came out of necessity that I got into it, and it was a long, hard transition, I feel, and it took some years to really adapt to me getting into it, and how to say, yeah, but now I think it's really the only program I really use. Yeah, I'm not somebody who is very much a computer freak. Not at all,
You're not a nerd.
Really, no. When it comes to that, no, I'm not a computer nerd at all. I'm a tool nerd as such. I have a lot of tools, building site tools, and so it was more like that. So I really focused purely on Rhino, and in the past years, luckily, this whole movement of drawing programs brought forth these parametric design abilities or possibilities, which again revolutionized everything what I'm doing.
So it was out of necessity? Was there somebody or something that you saw that kind of sparked it? I guess Rhino's kind of like an industry standard, right? For like this kind of CNC CAD.
Yes, it's definitely next to all AutoCAD options, definitely the major or industry standard. Yeah.
Interesting. And is there any, because you struggled with it at first, is there any maybe advice or kind of anecdotes that you have from you struggling to managing to accept that you have to use this program? For people out there maybe that are on the fence?
I say if you have a target and a vision and you want to reach that, and you need this type of tool, then you will always have the drive to learn it. For me, it was that, I wanted to reach a target, and I needed to use this tool, so I had to learn this tool. So actually there was, I had very less resistance, let's say, in learning it, because I really wanted to, And I started with Rhino 4, which was version 4. Now it's Rhino 8. So I went through 5, 6, 7, 8, really growing with the program, and really, by now I know the program extremely well. Since a couple of months, I became literally official trainer for the program. And
nice,
I give online courses. Yeah, it's super exciting. I give online courses to companies which need process optimization, CAD drawing process optimization. So I'm supporting them on the way of learning the program better and optimizing their drawing processes.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, Rhino is really special because, I mean, different from other CAD softwares. Like CAD softwares, I guess, are mainly used for like architectural design, right? I mean, I guess they're used for also fabrication, but Rhino is like, it's more like a 3D program where you have like, you know, modifiers and different kind of tools that are more similar to like Cinema 4D or Maya or things like that. And like a CAD software, like if I would open up AutoCAD, I'd be like, what the fuck is this? Like, what am I supposed to do here? But I can open up Rhino and kind of get around. Probably not really, but you know, I'd be able to add a sphere probably, you know. But it's just it's a cool software. Whenever I see people using it, it's really awesome. And we're gonna jump into it here in a moment. Before we get there, I have one more thing to talk to you about, and that is the Mac Daddy, the TAS man, Georgia. You know, when did you meet him? Because you guys have a very interesting relationship. Obviously, you're both Austrian. You're kind of, yeah. And this is like no offense here. This is like a really, you know, to both of you, you're very similar in your demeanor and energy. You know, you're so humble people, very behind the scenes kind of like people. TAS never shows his face. He's like one of these people that nobody knows what he looks like, you know. That's why he doesn't want to be on the podcast, unfortunately, but we'll get him. You know, what was your kind of introduction? How did you guys meet? And, you know, let's give him a little bit of a pat on the back.
Yeah, no, respect for mentioning him. Big shout out to TAS in this way. Our history goes really far back. I think by now I know TAS good 14 years.
Wow.
I think we met around 2010, 2011 maybe the first time, something like this. And we were working on a festival, it was an Austrian festival called Spirit Base Festival. And Spirit Base Festival hired the Stargate of me. And it was already me and Rob at the time working very close together. He helped me setting that up on that festival. It was held on the border to Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
And TAS wrote an email to this festival saying, "Hey, I'm this young guy from Graz, Austrian visual artist, and can I please come and show my artwork on the festival?" And so the organizer asked us and say, "Hey, this guy wrote me, he showed me some stuff, and he showed us 1 or 2 videos." And we said immediately, "Hey man, yeah, this guy needs to come here and present his work on the Stargate." And that's when we met TAS, and we became very fast close and felt on the same vibe when it comes to, you know, expressing our art, or the reason behind expressing our art. And yeah, I just love to work with him, you know, like I think revolutionized stage design in this team. We combine very, very well when it comes to my part and his part. You know, I create the object, I produce the object, I give him the 3D model, and he can produce visual content, and he arrives on the location, and one-to-one what he received and what he sees there in physical reality is the same, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, all visual artists, you know, they express always how much they love to work on stages, which I do, because they rarely have to do any mapping. They just arrive, switch on the projector, oh, it fits, matches, okay, and nice, and plug and play, you know. So totally. Yeah, and that's yeah.
No, please.
No, I just was expressing my gratitude for really working with him. And knowing him as a guy, as you say, you know, we are sort of similar, humble. You know, I'm putting my art way before myself as a person, you know, and I feel TAS is very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, TAS definitely like revolutionized the whole idea of mapping, just because and this is like what you were saying of like the idea that the mapping works so well with the structure. And like, yeah, you definitely have, architectural mapping is a very old thing, and it's existed obviously before, what we were doing. You even have like imagery mapping where you would have a backdrop and just project the image on it. But I think what TAS managed to do, and, it's clear that it was together with your stages, is that kind of really fine tuning of the structure together with the visuals. Whether it's like, outlining or stepping, I think TAS really took it to another level. And it's just a testament to how you guys work together, and, the synergy between the two kind of concepts of artistry, And another small thing about TAS before we go to your set is the way that he shares, the way that she shares his information. When I was saying when I met him, I'm a very like chatterboxy kind of person, and I don't really have so much inhibitions. So I'm, gonna just ask people straight out, like, how do you do that? How do you do that? And, most of the time people are, especially in the VJ world, especially in the visual arts world, people are very sharing with their information. It's kind of like almost like an ethos. But Tash just like, he just went deep. He just like literally went through the different stages of like what he does. I'm like, oh, how do you do that? The animation of the trench, that crazy trench that he has, that just like endless trench. And he's like, oh yeah, I do it. I have different pieces. He like walked me through it. I was like sitting there with my phone, like writing it down. And it just like the way that he shared it was so influential to my career, and, and inspired me to want to do the same. And now that we're friends, it's like even more powerful. Like, the type of person he is, it's not just in his visuals, it's also like him as a person. He's just like that. So yeah, shout out to TAS. I'm super excited to see him in this year, and you as well. And we have to get him on the podcast. Hopefully having you on, you could tell him how nice it was and how easy it was, and hopefully he'll want to do it as well.
Yeah, I believe it maybe has some influence on me. I really hope.
I hope. He's like the white whale, like the Moby Dick, like the the get, as it were. And I think that he's such a type of guy that he really wants to share. Like now his whole new thing on Patreon, he's sharing his techniques and sharing his his visuals in such a way that I think that he has the itch to want to like pass on the information in such a way that I think that I hope that he'll recognize the power of kind of this long form interview. So many things just come up that you don't even think about, that it really is an inspiration tool. That's definitely why I'm doing it. I want to have other people inspired by people like yourself and other guests that we have on here. Okay, so let's jump into your set. Let's jump into your computer and see what magic we can see and apropos inspiration. I'll let you take it away from here.
So in the background, you see here the modem stage. I just show this for presentation, how it looks in the 3D world. Pretty much exactly the same like in real. We have here the trussing and the framing structure. And what the visual artists do not get is, for example, this red layer, because the red layer is just structural parts. I would switch that off and here, I believe. And that would be more like what the visual artists are receiving as a model, as the surfaces to project on. So what you guys get. And but here we have this little window here, which is this major tool, which is called Grasshopper. You can see it here. which is the parametric visual interface or visual programming interface, I would say.
Node-based.
Because node-based, but it's functions. It's basically functions. It's mathematical functions. It's not really nodes. I wouldn't call it nodes like in a visual program. It's more functions. Yeah, and functions and coding. It's based on coding. You can clearly hang one of those things over here, and it literally gives you the code what is inside here.
Wow.
Yeah, everything what comes out here gets. So
Is
you
it
basically
Python?
code. It's Python, yeah. It also can input Python codes and everything. So yeah, I show here one of my files. I will make this a bit bigger at the moment to see a bit better. This is called my hyperscape patch. I have different patterns in here which are generated over certain functions, which here I have pattern 1 would be a Voronoi pattern. Pattern 2 would be a hexagon grid, which is my most used. Then the reptile skin pattern, cracked surface. But mainly I'm using these three here. To be honest, in my artwork, I like this type of patterns. I can quickly present this like this. So, for example, I like this visible, and you can see a hexagon pattern. I will switch this off. I can switch this on, and you can see a sort of reptile skin pattern, which obviously I have certain abilities to affect this type of pattern. Then can show this a moment again. That's a Voronoi pattern, which is probably this one. So this here, I guess. So this is Voronoi. For those who don't know Voronoi patterns, it's just a point with a circle growing around, and between every intersection of the circles growing, you draw a straight line for extracting this Voronoi pattern. So it's based on growing circles.
Yeah, it's actually one of. Sorry, it's just one of. Voronoi is wild because, as opposed to like Brownian noise or Perlin noise, it's actually very old. It's from like 1644 was one of the first times that Voronoi was kind of like brought into a mathematical function, and not later until like the 19th century was it kind of like put into like actual diagrams. But yeah, it's old as fuck, which is crazy, to think about.
Yeah, it's very simple at the end, and comes from nature.
Of course.
And so what I do here, I explained it earlier a bit, is drawing optimization. Obviously, when things start to be complex, to be able to draw things, it gets very tedious, I would say, to draw every single one of those lines on its point. So you want to support your own drawing abilities by creating mathematical functions to support your drawing process, because you don't have the time to draw this. So you have your PC who can calculate really fast, and therefore present your calculation in a graphical matter. And what I do here, for example, I can design any sort of outline shape. I'm gonna present this quickly here. I have what's the top view. I create a sort of tentacle here. So I created this closed curve, sort of this shape, and I would like to have this Voronoi pattern in here. And I can add my curve over here, start here. And we can see then when I have to switch this out and I start to become the Voronoi pattern in here.
Cool.
So obviously this is a very quick example. I can draw any shape in here into this field and add this curve over here. And I start to get the hexagon Voronoi pattern over here. I have certain abilities to change it. Let's say I want to have it on the outside big and on the inside small rather. And or what I have it on the outside.
Is Grasshopper like it's working side by side with Rhino? They're kind of like talking to each other?
Yes, exactly. It became part of it. It's by now it's standardized within Rhino. If you buy Rhino or
you get
Rhino, Grasshopper is automatically part of it. It's basically just using all of these functions over here in a parametric way. Parametric design means nothing else than being able to access all your parameters from the beginning. Like we can demonstrate this over here if we use this other pattern, which goes here, here. Just takes a moment to calculate. So, here. So right now I created this hexagon grid over here. This is my hexagon grid. Here I have my shapes. I'm going to align this. And it allows me to have access also at the very beginning of this pattern to, let's say, I want to have my hexagon size. I want it smaller. I want smaller hexagons. Obviously, this always takes sort of a minute or a moment to calculate. And I have access to all my parameters along the way. This is what means parametric design, actually, to be able to have access to all of these parameters along the way. In other words, the hexagons big on the outside, rather small on the inside.
And you're basically building the controls in a procedural manner and defining like how you're gonna control the parameters. Is that right?
Yes. For me, this is a sort of drawing help. I have different files which I use for my drawing help here. This is a pattern creator. I can also, which is very interesting, I'm gonna demonstrate for a moment. Let's say I draw my shape. So we can make it larger this time. I draw my sort of tentacle shape. And I need my hexagon pattern in here, but obviously I would like to flow the hexagons also within this shape. So I would probably get the center line of this. Get one. Observe. So now we have the center line of this, and I would create a reference line over here, which the reference line is within my hexagon pattern. Yeah. So now I want this hexagon pattern flow along this, which then we have our target curve. Our target curve with this one. So take a moment.
So you're using that line in the grid to then be targeted onto the line within the tentacle.
Yeah, this is my reference line, which I'm now like, and now it wants me to use this line and come up this for a moment. Straight line, then plug it right base. Just a second. And to actually, okay. Well, it's thing was
Something's happening.
Can you understand this element? Quite sure. So it's the effect of presentation.
Yeah, of course. Doesn't the line have to be the same, like the reference line has to be the same length as the line it's copying from?
No.
No?
Doesn't need to be. No, it can stretch or morph.
Okay.
Morph
okay. It's got one side of it.
Yeah, but it's... What said just now? It's not supposed to do this. Let's flip this one. See what happens.
It's the nature of node-based, procedural stuff is like you try an idea and it kind of works and then you just play with it until it works. This is like my favorite thing about nodes is just that once you kind of understand a little bit about what nodes do, like what the nodes themselves do, the functions, then it's just like a game. It's such a explorative game.
It's basically, as you said, it's a computer game, and all you do is problem solving.
Problem solving, yeah.
All you do is basically solving the things which don't work. You have an idea, exactly. and you work towards this idea.
Yeah.
Totally. There it is. So I have a rotate over here, which is obviously not what I wanted. I wanted to take this pattern straight from here, direct in this geometry. Therefore, this will make more sense to rotate my line again.
Oh.
Yeah. So it makes more sense now. Look in a second.
It must be so fun to play with like geometries like this,
Absolutely. Check. Stopped here.
And as somebody who looks at node graphs all day, your nodes are very clean. So good job.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But killer.
So, and here we have our beautiful hexagon pattern.
Beautiful
morphed around here with the center line of the hexagon here. Fantastically morphed onto our tentacle. Yeah. So obviously to draw this, it would be virtually impossible. I would sit hours and hours and hours to draw this. So here I can do this with these nodes. And indeed, when it comes to the nodes and sorting out these files like this, comes from having to program this for companies and for sort of end users, which also need to use this system, and I need to keep it clean. And this is not very clean for my standards, actually. I put it in groups and put some names to it, so I find myself
it's
around.
Clean enough for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you're designing things for other people is when you have to like almost
think
create
about
like
their
a logic.
abilities. Yeah,
like a logic that they're going to follow
basically
for sure.
make it very easy to use. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The logic is make it easy for sure. For sure.
So yeah, but you can see here, super nice what I can do, you know, with this system, you know.
What is this curve
awesome.
doing? Is it just controlling the size?
It's controlling right now. This is a scale shapes down with an attractor curve. My attractor curve right now is the center line, and I'll be able to scale these shapes according to a graph. And this graph shows from this would be the center, which would be this edge of the graph is my center, and I want the hexagons really big in the center, and then they fall off into smaller hexagons towards here, and then become again bigger towards the outline of the shape. Yeah. So again, I can demonstrate it.
Just a question. I'm just thinking about it.
Yes.
Like, you have, you know, so this is obviously perfect symmetry. It's, you know, very nice to the eye. Is there a way to break symmetry within this? Like, is there a way to tell it, like, you know, don't be, I guess you could just use a noise function somewhere in between that would break the symmetry. I'm just interested to see, like, you know, because you were saying before, like, you can't draw this. Obviously, it's not only about not being able to draw it, it's also like you're using math functions from nature that, you know, we can't do, you know. So I just sometimes, like, for me, the taking something symmetrical and then using a noise function that's, you know, inherently not symmetrical is just cool to see. I wonder if that's something that's possible to do, like, because now it's mirroring both sides, right? It's kind of like mirroring the both sides.
Sort of not mirroring, because it's taking its pattern from here, you know. If I would not want this to be symmetrical, I would have to go back over here, you know, and actually, let's say
the actual pattern itself.
Change this pattern, which is the source pattern, to a non-symmetrical pattern, and then just project it over here. So obviously I can simply right now, this goes very fast theoretically, plug in this other pattern over here. See what happens. I would need to adapt it a little bit potentially, but
do you know what I mean? Like, the kind of this, like, symmetry is so beautiful, obviously, but there's just something so interesting to, like, when you have something symmetrical, and then you kind of, like, break it out into something asymmetrical, like asymmetry inside of symmetry. I don't know. I just love that. It's also kind of like a very similar function to nature as well. Is kind of, that's how it is. You know, it's like a tree is like a very, you know, symmetrical in a sense, but like when you go into like the branches, how they L shape out and how they fractalize out, it's almost asymmetrical, right?
I mean, the prime example for me is the spiral for this.
The spiral.
You know? A spiral, you know, it's a spiral is not symmetrical, but in a sense symmetrical, you know. If you would create, let's say, a stage design based on a spiral, you know, it could not be the same on the left and the right in a sense, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's coming more, to be honest, in my designs. I started to feel more attention, or what to say, I feel more attracted to asymmetrical designs in my past years. And I'm sure it's going to reflect very soon in sculptures I will do, which I also want to present over here is another file, which I call simply Stage Designer.
Stage Designer.
It's basically my help. Is helping me to create certain things along the way while I design a stage.
Super cool.
I just recently wrote this. This was a very recent discovery, which I really like. It's so simple, but yet so powerful. Which, again, let's say I would draw a profile curve. Let's say like this. I wrote this. That's auto-saving. Just a second. Now, parametric design needs one thing, which is computer power.
What kind of GPU are you running?
I can check. It's weekly. I have a AMD Ryzen 9. I think it's very powerful.
16 cores. Yeah.
For the thing is, what you want for a Grasshopper calculations, you want the least amount of cores, but with the least amount of cores.
Oh,
yes.
It's not multi-core.
No, it's not multi-core because
Interesting.
it's a simple fact that you cannot have a calculation. You cannot calculate simultaneously on different positions. A mathematical calculation has a start and an end, and you cannot start to calculate somewhere in the middle because it's dependent on what was before.
Of course.
So a mathematical calculation is only done by one core, unfortunately. But basically, you want this core to be as high as possible. This is a bit of a limitation, I would say, with that, but it's just something you have to basically get the right computer for what you do. It would not help me to have a 64 core here because only ever one core is really calculating.
Process. Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's only. I mean, the power of GPUs is a pretty new thing. I mean, even rendering on GPUs is kind of new. But I think the trend is to harness the GPU kind of like the way you would harness a CPU. But a lot of, Grasshopper and Rhino and these things their code base is kind of, it's very difficult to transfer a code base, especially when you have like a program that so many people are using. But I think the trend is like you see a lot of programs moving to the GPU for their processing, especially single process things. Like if you could process, these parameters on the GPU, you're getting like, instead of like 3.4 megahertz, obviously it's not the same, it's not like exactly similar, but instead of 3.4 megahertz, you have like, 3000 megahertz on a GPU. So I'm sure we'll see kind of like this thing move to the GPU in the future.
Yeah. I'm curious about that. Yes, I'm very curious about this development because I want as much computer power as possible.
More power.
Yeah. Sorry, this is not always straightforward to present.
Yeah, no worries. Oh, there we go.
The way I want it.
It's worth it at the end. Cool. So fascinating to see your process. Also, Bjorn, if you can, because we do have a lot of like high-level viewers, maybe just like after you show kind of what this does, if you could show kind of like the node graph from, just this specific piece from beginning to end, like kind of, what's going into what and kind of the logic behind it, because I think that's, I'm interested by it for sure.
Okay, yeah, I can share this particular instance for the moment. I have here a profile curve, which is this curve over here. I have to reference this profile curve in my curve component. And I basically only have to reference these three components. These three components take my information. One is my profile curve, and the other one is the left and the right curve of this one. I think I know what's going on. Yeah, maybe
it's not closed.
Close this way. Let's see if that makes a difference. This again. It doesn't let me do this. Okay. So
it needs to be open.
Yeah, I just recently wrote this, so maybe it's not set. I reference these curves. And here, the endpoints, I just take my endpoints. I cannot make this visible. then I sort of not so interesting, these parts. What I do here is that I have perpendicular frames. Yeah, these perpendicular frames are perpendicular to this curve. I would have to go into a 3D perspective.
So from curve to curve?
So you can see these perpendicular frames. Yeah, they are perpendicular to this source curve.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I can choose the amount of steps. Yeah, like how many perpendicular frames I want here. Yeah, this was quite smoothly, nicely. I will zoom out a bit. So I can choose the amount of perpendicular frames I would like to have on this object. And I take a sort of direction, which is my x-axis of this particular frame, which would be the red line of this perpendicular frame. Yeah, here you can see the red line and the green line. This would be the y-axis, and this is the x-axis of this frame. And I'm taking the information of the x-axis to draw a line, which would be this line here, now it's green. Eventually, it starts to hit my second curve, which I referenced, and therefore create an intersection point, which would be this point here, always highlighted in green. And now I have 2 points, which is this point here, which is the center point of this perpendicular frame, plus the intersection point of here, which therefore I have number 1 point, which is I'm also using this here points, and they feed into a orient 2 point, which has a scale function as well as, and so my first point, which my geometry here, the orient 2 points, is my geometry. My geometry is my
Original
beginning curve, my profile curve. My reference point 1 and reference point 2 are taken from here and
from the
here.
reference curve.
These are my 2 reference points, and I'm projecting this curve while scaling it. Scaling is on true. If I put this on false, it just takes the same curve.
Interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't scale it now, but I tell it to scale it. And I have my target points. My target points are always this point and the opposite intersection point. And therefore, it's projecting this shape over here. Furthermore, you can see now all of these components, when I highlight them, what is happening is green. So further, I offset it. I offset the line to a certain distance. My distance would be set over here. Here I have my distance, so I can set this distance and connect a bit higher to see more effect. So I could offset this curve by also joining it, connecting it. And these are then these shapes. And then actually I want to for join curves. I know why. I would need to just set. I would just take this dot and move it over here. And now, to be honest, this should work. Yes. So I could switch off all of these components here.
It booleans it.
I see. Have these curves, and there we see my yes. So this is what I want actually.
It's like inside out.
Yeah. So I'm left with this, and all I had to draw, in Rhino was one profile curve and these two curves, and I don't need to draw anything anymore, And I can let's say just change my profile curve to something more round, and set this profile curve in here. Set whole curve, and now I have this shape.
So cool.
So I can really fast and easy design intricate designs through the help of algorithmic design. Algorithmic aided design, in fact, because this, what is here in Rhino, is called CAD, computer aided design. And in fact, this over here is AAD, which is algorithmic aided design.
Amazing. Man, you're almost getting me interested in grass. Almost.
Man, I tell you, it took me years. It took me years to understand this because,
of course,
again, I come from a physical background, doing stuff with tools and wood and, crafting stuff. And I'm really not into coding at all. I'm, if at all, I'm into drawing, and suddenly I had to do my drawings with this interface here and started to understand coding and, so yeah.
It's a completely different approach.
Basically, completely different. You really have to switch brain,
I feel very lucky because I can't draw, and my brain thinks like nodes. I think like visual scripting. So for me to pick up, when I picked up Touch Designer, it was very it made sense to me. Obviously, there's this huge learning curve when you pick up a new system because you have to learn the nodes and the logic. But the idea of okay, you multiply this or you add this or you compose this, it kind of made sense to me from the beginning. So now when I learn new visual scripting systems, I have a faster learning curve. This is kind of a different approach completely because it's I don't know, the functions are just not they're not functions that I'm used to seeing. When I go from Unreal Engine to Touch Designer, there's a lot of similar functions because you're kind of creating logic of interaction of parameters or texture based interaction of my camera feed is a texture and the LiDAR scanner is a texture. So it's those interactions, and this is totally a different type of interaction with things. So but it makes me excited to learn more about it because it's oh, nodes, I love nodes. It's
nice,
so funny.
Yeah, it's a great tool, and I'm super grateful I started to get into it and learn it.
Okay, so from here, right? How do you take this to a CNC or to a laser cutter? What is the process to kind of go from there to there?
To go to a CNC, I can quickly show, for example, the CNC boards, which is going to take a second to load. So this is the modem stage.
Is that it? That's the whole stage? But each one of these boards is how big is each one of those boards? It's a few meters?
These ones are here 2.5 by 1.5, 2.5 by 1.25 m, something like this.
Okay.
And these are 2 meters by 1.20 m by 240, I think, something like this.
And that the right side is doubled, right? Because it's just one side of the wing.
Sorry, what is it?
The wing on the right is doubled, right? Because you have to do it twice, so it's both sides. Is that right or no?
This is both sides. This is everything.
Both sides. Both sides. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, this is the whole stage. Yeah.
It's for some reason, I don't know. It doesn't seem like as many as I would think. I don't know, but I mean, it is a lot. Obviously.
Yeah, maybe it's a lot, but I tell you, this is a lot to cut.
It's a lot to cut. It's a lot.
each of those boards, you need two people to put it on the machine, and the machine takes a fair amount of time, to do all these little holes. And this is, for example, here on the left side, we can see what we cut on the CNC machine mostly, and this would be more what we cut on the laser, because the laser obviously can cut a lot better detail. Yeah. And it really takes a lot of time, to get to this stage of creating these CNC files. Yeah. And then, I mean, the laser is really simple. A laser is like a printer, man. It's really like a printer. You go there with your USB key and you file on it and you load it in and you press more or less plug and play, and the laser starts to cut this. And the CNC machine is a lot more advanced, and it takes a fair amount of time to understand it, So
Bjorn, I lost your audio. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
okay,
I can.
Sorry, 1 second.
Okay.
That's on my end. Sorry, you continue.
Yeah. So the CNC machine again takes a lot more time to understand. It's a lot more complex. You have to really get into this because you need to know what bit is in the machine, how fast can this bit go, how deep can you go at once. You need to tell the machine, hey, you need to cut on the inside here you need to cut on the outside. Here you need to engrave, and it needs to choose a different bit. And every bit, this is a pocket, which is to slots, basically to slot the other wood on top, which is not cut through. So it's all different functions. And
do you have to change
the
bit by yourself, like by hand, or is it already there?
No, luckily our machine has a tool changer. So I can load 12 bits and I can program these bits into the machine.
So it's like really programming the machine to know what to cut with one bit and what to cut with another bit.
Yeah, unfortunately I cannot present this here because I have this on another machine, which is my CAM program, CAM, which means computer aided manufacturing. And CNC means computer numerical control.
Cool.
All of these little shorts. That's what they mean. And I have this on another machine where I load them. I come here, I take the board, I load it in the other machine, which is next to the CNC machine, and then program the G code, it's called.
G code is what the CNC machine uses? Exactly,
yes. It's a code based on lines and coordinates, mostly coordinates, and radiuses. Everything is based on X and Y coordinates, radiuses, and depth. It just has X, Y, Z data, basically. It's just based on coordinates. So it's just converting this whole drawing into coordinate information.
Interesting. Fascinating.
Yeah, let's take actually.
And so that design that you just made with the, with our squiggle, the tentacle, if you wanted to laser cut that, is it as simple as literally just putting it onto like the board that you're going to put into the laser cutter, or do you have to define like this is a line, this is a groove, like what is kind of that process?
Yes, I mean the laser is very simple because the laser can either cut or engrave. In this case, the black line here would be engrave, which is just scoring the wood as such, up to 1 millimeter depth. It gets further when it becomes oiled or painted, the wood, the paint remains more solid within this, so you can see the engraving more visually at the end. And obviously these red lines are cut out, and the blue line would be the end of the process, which you're cutting the outline of the shape. So first you would do the engraving, then you would do the inside cuts, and at the very end you would cut the outside of the shape.
Interesting. So it just falls.
And this is the general process here. Also with the CNC, this is a more complex file for the CNC. You would have, obviously first it would do the pockets, which maybe would be like 3 millimeter deep on this 15 millimeter wood. Then it would do some engravings, which is the black lines there for placing the parts. So I have a guidance for placing the parts. And then it would do the inside cuts, which are these holes and screw holes. This is all for screws. This is for cables to pass the LED cables through. This is for screwing the other parts. And at the very end, again, would be the outline shape, which then you can remove your shape from the machine.
Fascinating. And so it kind of, you just mentioned LEDs. When you're designing things in Rhino and in Grasshopper, is there a way for you to visualize kind of like what the LED is going to look like, or is it just because of your experience you kind of know, okay, if I put an LED strip between these holes or in this area, it's going to kind of create this aura or effect? Or is there a way to visualize it inside of these softwares?
No, not at all. There might be a way of visualizing stuff like this, but this goes beyond my process, and this for me really not necessary. I guess it comes from experience. Yeah. Experience of knowing, hey, this is how it's going to look. But in this case, I mean, my LEDs, when I place them behind here, they are enclosed. Yeah.
Right, they're diffused, right?
They are diffused with a sort of fabric, with a very particular fabric called Dynajet, which is a fireproof LED fabric which disperses the light within its structure.
Wow.
And so I know if the LEDs get placed along this curve, for example, I know that these patterns are here going to be illuminated in a sort of diffused way. And for example, here I guide myself on the pattern. Like on this pattern, it's very nice to see that I would place like 3 LED strips, one along here, another one along here, and another one along here. And I think on this one is even 4. We have another one on the very outside.
You do have to think about it, right? Because you need to put the grooves to like connect the LEDs to, and like the holes, like you said, for the cables.
Yeah, I have to think about it in a certain way. Some is improved, very much so. Some is improved, and we drill the holes later on when I see, hey, I need a cable hole here. Yes.
Interesting.
But not on these parts, because on these parts, obviously, this is detail parts, and I don't have to. The cables go behind here; they go away from these parts. This is what people see. All of this is what people see, and they don't see any of those cables. This is more structural parts, which are holding the detailed panels. All of this is holding detailed panels, which here I have to think more about things, which would be the engineering part of things, which I always mention to whatever people, I always mention that this engineering part is far more complicated than designing all of these detail patterns.
Of course.
These detail patterns, this is a piece of cake and a lot of fun as an artist. But to design these structural parts and really creating the way of how is this thing going to be rigged, where is it going to hold, where I'm going to screw onto, how is it going to be mounted together? Yeah. Like, for example, these parts here,
Yeah.
Structural engineering is far more complicated than designing nice hexagon patterns like this.
Do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy that, like, kind of problem-solving engineering kind of aspect of it?
For sure, yeah, because it's always a challenge. It's really always a challenge, and it's sort of it's very it makes me content, if I design these things and I cut them on the machines and I assemble them and it's gonna work, it's very pleasing,
satisfying
when these things are satisfying. Yes, this was the word I was looking for.
Amazing.
So yeah, indeed.
Is there anything else you wanted to show us?
That's I think I shared the outlines and the depth. Yeah, There's not too much I can show right now on the spot. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think,
Or,
I think we got a lot. And I, obviously super appreciate you being so open and forward with showing your techniques and stuff. It's really
totally. I mean, to be honest, I
super
got really
eye-opening.
inspired by Taz and his Patreon channel.
Yeah.
And
Hell yeah.
if things go well and I find more time in future for things, then I'm really interested to open up a Patreon channel and share and teach those things.
Excellent. It's so valuable.
Yeah.
It's so valuable. Sharing information, it really makes that's like it's like the idea of like making art, right, is to inspire others to make the world a better place and kind of like, have your expression affect. Teaching other people is the same thing, it's just more direct, because you might inspire somebody without them knowing that they want to be inspired or need to be inspired. And that's very powerful. But when you teach something, the people that are coming to be inspired want the inspiration. So it's like a really direct channel of expression, I think. I love teaching. I don't get to do it very often. In the pandemic, like I managed to do a VJ course in Israel. And, I didn't charge a lot of money because I just wanted to have people to come. But I ended up having like 30 people. And from those people, like, a big percentage of them are now professional VJs or, whatever. They're definitely professional, but they're starting their careers. They're getting better and better. And it's just it feels so good. It feels so good to see how like, and it wasn't a lot of effort for me, because I could it was very basic, like just introduction to VJing. But just to see the impact that it does, and it's a direct impact, right? I don't know if my art, I guess some people reach out to you and say, hey, your art inspired me in this and that. But when you teach somebody, you really get to see the direct results of it. So, and I'm sure you know this as well. It's just, it's lovely. It's a lovely feeling. For
Yes,
sure.
I noticed this with quite a few individuals over the past years, which approaching me through various internet platforms and share how much they are inspired by what I do and sharing their artwork, which they produce, which got inspired by myself. And it's really, really pleasing, to get this reflection from others and say, hey, man, I created this because you inspired me with your artwork, and it's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of your, I don't say students, but some of the people that, you directly inspired, I mean, just Ankita and Daniel, Navi, I mean, they're on the next level now. They're like really at the height of their creation, and it's a, very direct inspiration from you. So it's, the fruits of your labor are being bared.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I have a few things here, and I think that each one will kind of get into a very interesting conversation. But I wanted to start off with kind of like the idea of being an independent artist, and what does it mean? And I have this very fond memory. I went to Modem for the first time 2015, and then by 2017, thanks to Fede, he kind of pulled me in, and I got to play there, and it changed my life completely. I had this really fond memory of, and I didn't know who you were or Rich was at the time, but I have this memory of seeing you two on the dance floor talking to each other, and kind of like just, I don't know, this spark in me was like, oh, these guys are like fucking crazy. Like they're doing this crazy shit. And organically, because I didn't approach you or Rich at the time, I didn't feel like the comfort to do it. But organically, after the festival, I was sitting at a restaurant in Split, or not Split, what's the town? Slunj, with my girlfriend, now wife, and we were just like eating, and then right next to us, in the table next to us, was Rich and his at the time like a friend of his, and my wife and his friend that he was with met each other at the festival just randomly, and they were just like, hey, what's up? And then I kind of started talking to, we're like, oh, let's join each other at the table. And then we started talking, and then, I'm like, oh yeah, I did visuals at the thing. And Rich is like, you did visuals at the thing? I built the stage, and I was like, oh shit, you're that guy. And then we just became kind of like very close, like friendly. And then eventually Rich invited us to, I guess it's your, farm, in Austria. You weren't there, but we went there and we stayed there for like a month. And this was like kind of this extremely important journey of in my life of like understanding what it means to be an independent artist, and kind of like self-supporting yourself. And I didn't really model my what I perceive as that on like how Rich was doing it, but it was like a eye-opening experience to like what it could be like. You know what I mean? It really gave me like an inspiration and a confidence to follow through with what I wanted to do. So you don't, you have your own companies, of course, and you kind of you have a lot of clients and stuff, but you're predominantly a freelancer, I would imagine. What has that been like for you? Like, how is, there's so many ups and downs with work and money, and there's work and there's no work, and there's clients, there's no clients. What is kind of like, some do's and don'ts, some advice, kind of like, how's it been for you to be an independent artist in your career?
Yeah, I find it very, very interesting that you bring this all up. Because, this is a very, how to say, intricate journey. And I think it has a lot to do with self-evaluation or self-worth. And I think as an artist, things financially probably only start to reflect in a healthy degree when you're giving yourself the worth you deserve.
Yeah.
When you start to really look at all the skills, all the hours, all the tears and the blood and the sweat you put into your thing, and you putting that worth on top of this thing and say, hey, this is worth that much, and I don't care if anybody in the world's gonna buy it,
Right.
But this is a long journey, I believe. It comes with growth, with experience, with age, growing into it, and it's a tough journey as an artist. For younger people or for younger artists, I would recommend to definitely, if they believe in their art and what they do, then they should never stop, regardless of whatever reflection they get from the outside. But if they don't get the reflections they would like to have, then I would start to have a look within oneself and start to really have a look, hey, I need to give myself that worth, only then it can reflect in the outside,
Wow.
Because everything starts from the center, everything starts with what's going on within yourself. The world is a mirror of all your thoughts and all your feelings. And if you feel worth, then it will reflect. And but this is a journey, I don't think anybody has given that into his, birthplace. Like, you need to learn that, I believe,
Totally learn it. And, like from my experience, like seeing others doing it makes it achievable, attainable, and I feel very lucky that my life kind of always introduced me to these artists, that were doing it, that saw the self-worth inside of them and reflected it outwards, and I could see that reflection. I could see that reflection, and I always, really am super grateful for the people along my path that kind of gave me the confidence to see that I could do it myself. I think what you said is it's so potent. If you love what you're doing and you have the need to express yourself, don't stop. Like, it's such an important thing, I think. we kind of mentioned at the beginning, like you didn't have this model from your parents, of like what it could be to be an independent artist. And I think not specifically your parents. From my parents, they're creative people, but they never had the confidence, or maybe like culture and society didn't give them the confidence to follow through with it. So they went to like more menial jobs, or more like what's expected by them. And I think that affects their life. And I'm not gonna be judgmental and say in a negative way, but it affects their life, right? Because if you have this spark inside of you and you don't follow through with it, doesn't necessarily mean you need to be an artist, right? You could be a creative person, being a coder, and being an architect, or even something even simpler as being a teacher or something. But if you have the spark inside of you that needs to express and be outwards, you have to follow through with it, even if it doesn't mean you're going to be a millionaire, because you'll be a millionaire inside, I think. And definitely I've been shown from my experience for sure. So cool. Independent artistry, comes with different ups and downs. What do you do in the downtimes? How do you, maybe financially, maybe creatively, when you have a job, you could be, and I know this now because I had to take a job. Luckily, my job is not constricting, so I can still be an independent artist. But when you have a job, you can kind of turn your brain off, and the job automatically allows you to be creative because you have tasks. So, as an independent, like, what do you do during the downtimes? How do you get through those downtimes? What is some kind of things that have been shown to you?
I think the only downtime really is when I have quite a few months of not really being able to conceive and reflect an idea to reality, when there's literally, let's say, when the muse is missing, for production, for creating, this is would be, I would say, a downtime. But I feel like that I've been there so many times that I not judge this time either, that I see it more like as a deep rest, because it's like, I don't know, it's like a car, man. You can't just run a car like 24/7 all the time, and I cannot conceive ideas 24/7, like there is a time for conceiving, and there's also a time for letting the mind rest, and I really can see when these things are happening. I don't force it, I'm sometimes, yes, I need to force it because of tasks and jobs which coming along, because of requests I'm getting for things, but then it comes with trust in your abilities, that I feel like, hey, I know I've got those abilities and I know I've got the skills, so I have to trust in myself to bring it down to a point when I need to. And it's basically that,
Trusting in yourself.
Trusting in yourself, I have to say I'm really, I'm a very positive human. I'm trying to stay positive in any kind of situation life approaches me with. I really immediately want to jump on a solution. Whatever challenge comes towards me, I jump to the solution, and work my way towards the solution, and that might be in a physical sense, but also in a mind sense, that I really switch to a positive thought immediately, and but this was also training, and believing and knowing that this works for yourself, that if you create in yourself this mindset of pure positive thought power, it can only reflect, once again, reality is a mirror, we all know this through several psychedelic experiences, that how fast our mind and our thoughts can create what's outside here, and if you train yourself to be positive, and if you train yourself to really focus on the good things, then that's all you experience.
Yeah, it's a snowball. You can have a snowball of bad and you can have a snowball of good, but it's always going to happen.
You kick off the snowball, yes.
You kick off the snowball. Yeah. I always look at it like life is full of paths, right? Like, and you can go left or right or up and down. There's always going to be choices. We have choice. If you're in a constant positive space and you're expressing good inside of you and outwards, then the paths that come to you are going to be good. So, even if you go left or right or up and down, they're always going to be a good choice. If you, like you said, reflect that positive energy outside of you. It's so true. Recently I've been having a lot of, I don't like to call it depression, because I think that that's not fair to people that are depressed, but I've been having hard times, like difficult, challenging times with myself. And whenever somebody's like, oh, how you doing? What's going on? I focus on the good, like I'm healthy, my kid is healthy, my family's healthy, we have a beautiful home, all the things that are good. And like, it's not like I'm pushing the bad stuff away because, I want to grow from the bad stuff, but I'm focusing my attention, especially the attention that I express outwards to, another person or just in general, to the positive, so that when I come back to trying to grow from the bad stuff, it's in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like I'm on the path and I'm met with different places to go, and I choose the right one for me. And when I look back, maybe there's some, scary trees or something bad, but I'm still going forward. Like, I'm not forgetting like that the bad stuff is behind me, but I'm moving it forward. And I think that that's kind of like, what you were talking about with the manifestation of, the more good you feel or the more good you output, then the more chances or the more positive manifestations are going to happen. I definitely think that's true. Okay, so talking about manifestation and making positive things and seeing the positive feelings in your outcome, crystal grids. Can you talk a little bit about that? You're very into astrology. I know you have this beautiful astrological chart that you've made. I don't know if this is your own concept or not, but I've seen it. It's very beautiful. Crystal grids. Apropos to Rich and his friend, this is a woman called Sarin. She taught me about crystal grids, and showed me within Modem there was a year, I don't know if it still goes on, but that they put under the ground some crystals in a grid. Or maybe it was Boom, actually. I think it was Boom, not a Modem. But they put a literal actual grid in the floor of the dance floor. Yeah, I mean, like, what is it? What's going on there?
Okay, crystals. I don't know. Let's start with quartz crystals. Yeah, quartz crystals are very much in use in our whole electronics. Some people probably don't know it. Every single phone, radio, whatever, they have a quartz crystal inside. Why? Because quartz crystals, they resonate on a certain frequency. It's called the piezoelectric. And basically they resonate on a higher frequency than light speed. Let's say that the particles are moving from left to right, and they move so fast that they resonate and they swing in a sense. And crystals have a vibration, simple vibration. They have effect on our bodies. If we hold them in our hands, they have effect on our environment. It's just what it is. It's reality. And to use this, I would say we started to use this on dance floors purely because we believed in the abilities of those stones, and believed in the health benefits, in the energy benefits on a space. And as there is thousands of people coming towards a party, you have a very good opportunity to sort of heal a lot of people with simply using a very specific combination of rocks or crystals on your installations. And it's very interesting you get into this, because there's something I feel like we didn't really talk about, which is the neural programming effect these stages actually have on the mind. And in combination with crystals, I think these stages go far beyond them being just a stage design. Our brain, the human brain, many people will know it reprograms itself like by the second, It starts to connect different wires, whatever we hear, see, feel, touch. We create new understandings. Our brain has to rewire. It has to make different connections with itself. Some things disconnecting from there and connecting over there again. And also patterns are doing these things, like the flow of life, and there's a lot of patterns which are capable of just simply affecting your iris. Your iris takes on this pattern. It gets converted in whatever into your brain and electronic signals and reprograms your brain. So understanding this and knowing this and keeping that in mind while designing a stage is really, really powerful. It's really powerful because effectively everything which I draw and design here has a certain feeling towards it. All the stages or designs I do, I choose them by feeling. It needs to feel good, it needs to feel good to me. I need to like this curve, and I need to say this curve sits right and it feels good in my heart. And I work towards this, if I look at the stage and something doesn't feel right, then I will never going to present it. It needs to feel good, And I believe in combination also with the LED patterns, with the LEDs and the colors and the simple design of those patterns, it has a really, really strong effect on people's minds. And on top of that, using crystals and their resonating frequency within those patterns, you've got a really, really strong, powerful device, which is capable of basically healing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I don't think there's many people that have been to Modem or just in general on a dance floor that don't feel that haven't felt that, even if it's something simple of just like, oh, I had so much fun, and now I'm going back to like the normal world. Like, yeah, reprogramming is such a powerful thing. I think that we have a responsibility, as artists, especially artists that share our work to people that are extremely open in their minds, whether it's substances, whether it's just the people that are attracted to these kind of, events. People are coming and being vulnerable. They're coming and like opening up their minds, their hearts, their souls to frequency, right? It starts with the frequency of the sound, and it goes to the frequency of the light that's emitting from the LEDs. It goes to the content that's being projected. It goes to the the way that the floor is organized, the dance floor is organized, the torus sphere that's kind of collected. And I think that what you said is so beautiful of like, it feels good to me, then, it's kind of like that trust thing, right? Like of like, I know it's good. And therefore, if it feels good to me, then it's going to resonate in that way. I always make art like that. Whenever I design something or make something, it's a combination of solving a problem, but the solving of it is like feeling good. I don't know if that made any sense, but like, whether it's using
It's
like
the
I love
challenge. Replace the word problem with challenge.
challenge.
And,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah, because problem is negative, right? A challenge is kind of like giving you the ability to do something more. That's true. But whether it's like Merkabahs, I love Merkabahs, you know, and the concept of a Merkabah is a vessel, is like almost like a spaceship, you know, with the male and female frequencies spinning in different directions. Like whenever I see the shape, whenever I see the pattern, I just feel good, you know. So if I start my artwork from there, the challenge is gonna be kind of worked on in a good way. It's fascinating. Did you like study anything to do with crystals? You have a lot of knowledge of it. Like, did you know, besides just from anecdotal things from people, did you kind of study it, or is it just experience based?
No, I think I got into it with a friend. Her name was Stephanie. By now she's a kineso. I don't know the English word. Kinesiology.
Kinesology?
It's a sort of healing method.
Okay. With crystals.
Yeah. Not particularly, but her granted. Yeah, he was really into crystals, and they had a full cellar of crystals, like 2 rooms, like thousands of them.
Wow.
And I got to see this when I was like maybe 16, 17, 18, something like this. I really loved those rooms, you know. Every time I went to visit her, I said, man, can I please go and see the crystals, you know? And on top of that, my own grandfather, who died 2012 in Vienna, he collected crystals, but it wasn't really obvious to me what that meant actually, you know, in this age, you know, and only by growing up in this environment, in a psychedelic trance scene, and becoming more aware of life and reality, and obviously watching a lot of documentations about certain things, only then I became aware of the power of that. And since then, I became a crystal collector myself. I love these rocks and stones, how they feel.
Yeah.
You know, by now I have by myself more than 1,000 crystals for sure,
Wow.
which I collected over the past 20 years. And I'm really into that. I really love their colors. I love their smell. I love their combinations, the alloys, volcanic rocks. I'm really into volcanic rocks and volcanic alloys. I really love this type of structures they create, molecular structures.
Yeah.
And how they resonate, basically. Yeah. And on top of that, I'm very interested in silicon. Silicon is
type of
I don't think so. I don't think people are aware of what silicon is. You know, silicon, first of all, is in every quartz crystal. Every quartz crystal contains silicon. It's a quartz crystal is made from one molecule silicon and 2 parts oxygen. So
I didn't know that.
Every computer chip we're using in our computers is based on silicon.
Or crystal.
Silicon is the second most abundant molecule on planet Earth after carbon.
Yeah.
Carbon is the most abundant, and after that, straight away is silicon. And the thing with silicon is that silicon combines immediately with whatever is around.
Yeah.
Silicon really likes to combine with things. So to get silicon in a raw form, I'm not quite sure that even exists on planet Earth to have silicon in a raw form. They make it. They can man make it with a reduction process of reducing quartz sand, take the oxygen out, and you are left with silicon. That's how also it gets made for computer chips and everything. But silicon is a super crazy material. I have from a friend who works in a furnace. He kind of stole a lot of rocks of 99.9% pure silicon.
From the
this
byproduct?
stuff, it's they use it to throw it inside the furnace where they melt alloys together. And he took some of those silicon rocks with him, and he gave me a couple of them. And this material is so insane. If you hold it in your hand, and it's first of all, it's super expensive to have like a hand-sized rock of silicon.
Of course.
And you hold this in your hand, it starts to resonate. You really, after like a couple of minutes holding this in your hand, you start to feel a sort of vibration in your hand. And you can hold this silicon on your third eye, I would say, and you really start to feel things, you know.
Wow.
And it's very powerful. And we use this on the Modem stage. I have a couple of silicon rocks there, and they're on stage, and I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be powerful. It's what all our computers, like you said, are processing on, like literally. You know, like the zeros and ones that are being turned on and off are happening on a silicon wafer. You know, so
what it does, basically, silicon, it's very interesting when you have this rock and you have it in your room. It has room temperature, and you take it in your hand. It immediately takes on your heat. It really wants to combine with everything. So wherever you put it, it immediately takes on its environment. So it's very fast in data exchange. That's why also it gets used in computer chips, because it's super fast in exchanging data, like give and take, give and take, give and take.
Interesting.
It's really interesting, yeah.
Interesting. What an interesting function for like an element to have, right? Like a give and take, give and take. It's so beautiful that our universe, especially the Earth that we live on, has these functions, you know, like built into the structure of everything. You know, it's so wild.
Yeah.
It's really wild. Like when you think about like even something that's like water, right? Like the way that water crystallizes based on its environment. There's that beautiful research that I don't remember the guy's, I think a Japanese guy, where he did like, you know, he looked at the molecular structure of water and he put words like positive words and negative words and different types of words, and the structure of the crystal like changes. Like, what the fuck? You know, it's like so crazy. It's so crazy. Like that micro world of like, you know, crystallization versus like the macro of like, you know, the Big Bang or like, you know, whatever different galaxies, how the form and structure of them. Like, it's just so wild that I always think about like as a chicken or egg, right? Like, is it beautiful to us because it's a function of like, you know, our evolution and kind of like a function of nature, or is it beautiful to us because it's beautiful? Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, why is...
I mean, this example you just made regards to water crystals, it perfectly reflects what we talked before in the sense of being positive and being targeted onto good things, you know, because our language, you know, which we speak out, you know, these frequencies we say, you know, they affect reality. If they affect water, it's so easy to imagine, you know, how they affect a human body, you know. So if you actually speak nice things to somebody, you know, you're literally changing their molecular structure by just being nice to them, you know. And it makes so much sense, you know, if you just stay positive and just be nice to people, you know, that you're actually literally changing their molecular structure, you know, and vice versa, you know.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, like the words that we have are like the way that our, you know, dumb monkey brains can express themselves in a powerful way. Like, I wish I could just like, you know, I don't know, like touch something and it crystallizes or, you know, becomes beautiful, but I have to say words to do it. It's so crazy. I have this rose quartz here that has it's probably hard to see in the camera, but it has a water inside of it, like a water bubble inside of it. And it's just like, just the idea that water bubble has been in there for tens of thousands of years, you know, like what is it seen? What is it felt? Like, it's just so crazy to think you know, time is such a human illusion, right? Like, I always love to think about like the idea of like a rock, like or a mountain that's falling, right? Like you see a fallen rock, like it fell maybe 10,000 years ago or whatever. It's just been there for a long time, but every rock you see is falling. It's just falling really, 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 really slow. Like time is not of an essence to it, you know? So it just makes you wonder, like, I believe in you know, in reincarnation. I don't know how it works. I don't really know like the machination of it, but I definitely feel like there's a cycle, you know, because everything has a cycle. So why wouldn't
It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned reincarnation in a sense with time, because I listen to these channels which potentially come from outer space, and they explain it in a different way. He explains that there is no reincarnation, that there is only incarnations, because our soul as such does not perceive time the same way a human body does perceive time.
Right.
Time does not exist in the same way for our soul like it does for our physical body. So in that sense, they explain that we are not really reincarnating. We have simultaneous incarnations which our soul is connecting to at the same time.
Beautiful.
In the same moment, sorry, not at the same time, in the same moment. As there is only this one moment, we basically have incarnations in different time zones.
Yeah.
But as our soul exists outside of this time and space concept, we are incarnated.
I love that.
And I find that super interesting, yes.
Yeah, it speaks to, you know, what we understand about quantum theory and quantum things of like entanglement, right? Like you have two particles fucking billions of light years away, but they're existing and they can talk to each other. I think that, reincarnation, I mean it in like the sense of, you know, like just something has been before and something comes after. Right, like there's and like you said, those are the same thing.
That's a linear perspective.
Yeah,
it's linear perspective, and it's a very humanoid perspective to have a beginning and the end. Our soul does not perceive it in this way. You know,
it's true. It's outside of it.
It's not a linear perspection. Yeah.
Wow.
But I believe that this concept is almost too difficult to grasp. It's too difficult to grasp for our human brains. You know, we can talk about it in words like this, you know, and it makes sense, yes. But you know, to grasp this is kind of impossible, and it's also not why we're here. You know, you know, it's not why we're here.
Yeah, we're here in a physical body to be physical, right? Like that's kind of the point.
Indeed.
Yeah,
it's for the experience. It's for expressing as an artist. You know, it's bringing concepts and new realities down to earth. You know, especially as an artist. You know,
especially.
Like, you know, as an artist, man, I believe you are a really important person in life, because you're scratching on the boundaries of existence. You know, as an artist, you always strive for the new, for the undiscovered, for the unexplored. You know, you don't want to use stuff which is there before. You know, you're scratching on the surface on the edges of the universe. You always want to expand it. You know, and that's why artists are really important people. You know, for this world.
Totally. And I think that, you know, to bring it back to while we're here, like, and this is linear and it's very human, a way of thinking, but this is the way that I can think. You know, I feel like you're here for, like, purpose is not the right word, but like your soul or your consciousness is not complete. And like you're put in this body to fix it, to change it, to grow it, to whatever word you want to put there. And I feel like that's like a real big part of the mission of life, right? And as an artist, we have that opportunity so directly to do that. You know, I always remind myself, like, what's the point of being here? Like, it's not to, you know, be an activist or I don't know, like make a manifesto or be a I don't know, like, make a big change on a global level. It's like, so like my soul is here to grow, right? To heal, to there's some mechanism that happens when the soul is put in a 3D body that allows it. Maybe it's language, maybe it's consciousness, I don't know, but something allows the soul to do something when it's put in a body, and that like really makes me feel good, because it's like, it's easy, like, just be a good person.
It's good it's nice that you say it, that you call it allowing, because that's really the point. I feel that we are allowed to experience, we've got the allowance to limit ourselves in a sense, to physical reality, because physical reality is super limiting in a sense of time and space.
And senses.
But we are allowing ourselves to go through this. Yes.
Wild. You were speaking a moment ago about a channeling. Is it? Are you talking about Bashar?
Yes,
or somebody
indeed,
else?
yeah.
Bashar. So,
yes.
Do you channel yourself? Do you have moments of channeling from higher dimensions?
Yes, I must have.
You must
I
have.
must have. I don't. I feel that my artwork is very much coming from somewhere. And I feel these moments, but I don't want to put them into a box or categorize them as such. There is moments where I strongly feel a connection, a conceive when you conceive this idea, and there is an idea, suddenly basically a download, conceiving an idea and a download. And for me, it's interesting because Modem Hive, the Hive dance floor, for me, it was this interdimensional download center for conceiving ideas. It's like you go there and you plug into the space and you connect it to source, and now you're like, it's the interdimensional Wi-Fi. You're basically sitting on the antenna, and here you are allowed to receive right now. Just take in as much as you can. Just carry on downloading.
So good. That's so good. So, man, how much of these concepts do you think is just pure intention? Like, you as the artist, you as the creator of the stage, of the Hive, like, if your intention is for the thing to be a portal, for the thing to be a Stargate, like, is that enough for it to actually be that?
Enough for who? It has to be enough.
I don't know. Yeah.
At the end, if it's enough for myself, then yes, it is. And if it's enough for somebody else, I don't know. It's not my. I'm not in the position of deciding what is enough for somebody. If it's enough for me, then I feel it is. And if I feel I have done everything I possibly could in this point in time, if I have conceived and realized as much as I could with my abilities, then yes, it was enough. And then yes, it is enough. So that would be the way I kind of see it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that it's really, I don't know how to connect this to my next thing, but I'll try. The intention with raising kids. I'm a new father, and there's like so much, like as my baby is growing, and now he's like starting to like walk and talk, like not saying words, but he's saying sounds that he's obviously like has some intention behind the sounds. But as it's starting to happen, like I notice. Besides for him like being a sponge of like whatever he sees he starts to do, there's like something so powerful about like the intention in my energy and my words when I'm around him. and it's just like a reminder of like how powerful that intention is, and it goes back to what we were saying about like feeling good and positive, but it's like, it doesn't even have to necessarily be words, right? It's just like the feeling of the machination of what I'm trying to do or express. It's such a mind fuck, with kids, like it becomes like a really strong reflection of that mind fuck, because it's like, it's right in front of you and you're seeing it progress every day. You have kids, beautiful kids, what's it been like for you, the journey of fatherhood, and maybe to come down a little bit to 3D, what's it like bringing your kids to festivals? Like, what's it kind of, what's that feeling like?
Honestly, I'm very, very glad you mentioned this topic, because I'm also a sort of young father. I mean, my son is now 4. You met him before.
Yeah.
And just recently I was in an interview and somebody asked me, hey, what's your best piece of art you ever did? And I, without a doubt, was saying my son.
Nice.
And it's without a doubt, the best and biggest creation I ever did, and will always be. Nothing ever which I ever design or fabricate will kind of reach this level of appreciation for something which got created.
Beautiful.
And for me, it's my biggest drive at the moment. My biggest drive in life. My life completely changed when he was born. Everything completely switched from things which was not okay before to the point this doesn't matter anymore. Because you have a son now, you're a father, and for me right now, the highest achievement I could have is creating a life for him to be happy and comfortable, and this will always be my biggest drive. Every challenge what comes along is really a piece of cake, as long as this little human being is happy and healthy, and from that perspective, I started to live a much more happier life since he's here, because I simply have this number one reason to be happy and to carry on. There is not a single day ever in my life where I have it difficult to wake up in the morning, to like, oh no, today I want to lie in bed because I don't feel so good. I don't know that anymore since my son is alive, because man, I have to get up. I have a number one reason to get up and be happy. And it's beautiful. It's simply beautiful, and I love to be a father to bits. With all honesty, I have to say, I wish I would have more time to, because of my work, and the projects I do. It's very hard to actually spend more time with him, but I sort of feel that he also understands that, and that he's growing into that. And it's a challenge I have to deal with myself, and with what I do, but at the same time, we're both growing into this, becoming a father, being a son, and but it's beautiful. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. I feel the same way about the creation thing of like, when he was born, it's like, it's almost like the narcissist inside of me is like, oh, this is the best thing that I've ever made. But it's so much more than that, because it's, every time you make like a piece of art, you give a piece of yourself, right? You're like, it's like part of you being expressed. And like a child or a human is like the epitome of that, right? Because it's like, it's got its own consciousness, it's got its own thing, it's like alive. So I also felt that really strongly. Like, this is like the best, this is like nothing I make will ever even come close to being as important or as good as that. What is it like bringing your kid to a festival? I'm bringing Lev, my son, to Modem this year. I'm very excited about it. Give me some tips, Bjorn. Tell me what I need to do.
First of all, I have to say, we both can be grateful that the mothers of our children are supporting that reality and lifestyle of bringing the kids to the festival, because I know very well that not all mothers or not all fathers will support this type of lifestyle. So I'm super grateful that his mother is supporting that. And It definitely has two sides to it. Yeah, it has two sides. It's very exhausting, but also super beautiful, to have him there, and yeah, Nebu was every year on Modem Festival. He experienced the beginning, and he knows the vibe. But also after some days, we brought him to his grandmother to also have the time for us, which is also very needed, as parents to have that alone time, and cherish that and find that, as a parent, don't let yourself be, you're still your own individual, and it's important to not forget that you also need to look after yourself, Already we're giving 99% towards that child, especially in the first years, when they are 1-2 years, they suck up a lot of percentage from our energy and attention, like really a lot. But we must not forget that it's also us, and I think children feel and understand that aspect.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it's definitely one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, like, and it builds upon itself every time, like every realization that I have of like, oh, this is forever, or this is like, I can't just go do whatever I want right now. I have this responsibility, and it's like, even after 15 months, 16 months, it's still like a constant reminder of this. I feel like from seeing other friends with a little bit older kids, I feel like it gets a little bit simpler, not easier, but simpler.
It gets easier, man. It just gets easier. Let me tell you, it gets easier. Yeah. Really, really it does from year to year. It just gets easier. First of all, you're adapting yourself to that situation better and better.
Right.
And
you become easier.
And you become easier with it. Yeah. And your kid becomes easier. It adapts to you as well. And it just gets easier with time and more enjoyable. I believe the first year is definitely the hardest. After you experience the second year, you will have a comparison to the first and the second, and you will realize, hey, the second year was a lot easier than the first. And it continues like this for me, to be honest. That stuff gets easier. You this little conscious you created, becomes more conscious of itself. It becomes more self-aware, more self-responsible, and they start to put on their shoes eventually by themselves, And so, they take away slowly the responsibility from you, So, yeah.
Okay, good. That gives me some hope.
Yeah.
That gives me some hope.
I can happily share that. Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. That's really exciting. Yeah, I think this is a good place to end. I'm really excited to see you soon. Thank you so much. Really, means so much to me to get deeper into who you are and where you come from, and your way of thinking is so fresh. I've spoken to a bunch of people already by this point, and there's so many similarities in like a good way. So many similarities between artists. This has been like a totally break of that mold, and it's just been really an honor to talk to you, man. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really, thanks a lot. I kind of felt that this is going to happen as soon as I realized you started your podcast. I knew I'm going to be on there one day. And at the same time, it was interesting because I'm not a visual artist. Yeah. And not necessarily you don't invite only visual artists, but I felt like, hey, I'm actually not really a visual artist. And until now, I'm mainly seeing visual graphic designers of sorts, and for me, it was still super interesting knowing that I will be on this podcast one day and that I can share my vision and perspective with people.
Yeah. Yeah. I purposefully called it like the visual cast and not like the visual artist or VJ, because I feel like there's so like you're digital, but you're not really, and like you're not a visual artist, but you kind of are a visual artist, like I don't think that's it shouldn't be a box, and I want to have more people that I think for us, for the quote unquote visual artists or digital artists or VJs, for us to see the machinations and mind of people that are adjacent to us in the field of creativity is so valuable. It's so valuable. So, hopefully, I mean, not hopefully, I know it's going to resonate with other people as well. So again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Alon.
Wow. What a mind-bending, mind-altering, and mind-expanding conversation with an awesome human being. Thank you so much, Bjorn, for coming on, helping us expand our minds and share with us these beautiful knowledge that you have. Huge thanks to Mantis Mash for the intro and outro music. Join us next week for the podcast. We have one of my closest and dearest friends. He is a triangle. If you've made it this far, you're watching the episode, please subscribe, please like, leave us a comment. See you next week.